Welcome back, my friends, to AA Recovery Interviews. I'm your host, Howard Al, and I'm an alcoholic. Sober since January 1st, 1988, one day at a time. I'm grateful you've joined us. AA Recovery Interviews is the podcast where Alcoholics Anonymous members from around the world share their timeless and extraordinary stories of experience, strength, and hope. There are over 180 awesome interviews in this podcast series. I invite you to scroll through my past episodes on any podcast app to listen to them all. Today's show features my interview with Nancy K., an extraordinary woman whose 53 years of continuous sobriety is a stunning achievement built upon the trials and tribulations of everyday life. Growing up in a home dominated by a violent alcoholic father, Nancy started drinking at age 12 to quell the constant fear and self-loathing she felt daily. Seemingly rescued at age 17 by her first failed marriage, Nancy continued to drink heavily with her husband, hastening the inevitable divorce. Her second marriage involved the same kind of abuse, dysfunction, and divorce, but was further complicated by 3 children. Lacking interest and skills in child raising, Nancy turned to the bottle, but felt little relief after so many years of self-recrimination. Her drinking increased, and a completely hopeless state of mind manifested as feelings of guilt, shame, regret, and self-punishment. With her second divorce looming, Nancy's thoughts turned to suicide. But she stopped short of it, and a divine ray of hope led her to Alcoholics Anonymous in 1972, at the age of 31. My interview with Nancy K. covers a wide range of experiences over her 53 years of continuous sobriety. She talks about the good times and the bad times, the challenges of maintaining sobriety in the midst of both difficulties and good fortune, and the importance of using a sponsor, working the steps, attending meetings, and service work. It would be easy to point to Nancy's 53 years of concurrent sobriety and AA membership as proof the program works in the long term, but it's so much more than that. Hear for yourself over the next hour as AA Recovery Interviews welcomes my newest friend and AA sister, the remarkable Nancy K.
My name is Nancy. I am an alcoholic. No, I'm sorry. My name is Nancy. I am an alcoholic. I'm so used to saying it.
Yeah, I know. I have some friends who, for the longest time, used their last name. It was helpful because one of the people's name was John.
Oh, yeah. We get a lot of Johns.
Yeah, we got a lot of Johns and Bobs and others, so I'm always appreciative when people use their last name. We're not anonymous to each other. I really appreciate you doing this today and for taking the time to be with me on the AA Recovery Interviews podcast, where I interview AA members from all over the world to share their stories of experience, strength, and hope in an interview format so that we can get to their entire story. It gives me the opportunity to ask questions about things that may need a little bit more discussion or to clarify or whatever. So let me tell you how we got connected. I was at the International Convention in Vancouver, as were you. Was it the Women's Conference that had a hospitality suite?
Yes, International Women's Conference.
And I walked in there, and I was met immediately by some people who were very nice to me. And I told them about my interview show. And one of the ladies who was, I think, sober, I think she said 3 years. That might identify who she was.
Oh, that would be Pam.
Yeah, Pam. She was super sweet. And
yes.
She said, oh, you need to talk with Nancy. She's been sober like a million years. And I said, well, okay. I did. And then you and I talked, and I told you what I did, and you said yes almost immediately, which is really great. And so I say all that to just express my appreciation.
Thank you.
For you being here to provide a message that could be of help to who knows who around the world, because this...
Oh, yeah.
And it's helpful in that way. Now, so I met you at this International Women's Conference. I'm not too familiar with that. Could you, for the benefit of our listeners, tell me how that organization functions?
Well, it's been going for over 60 years. And it started with a small group in, I believe it was Kansas City, to celebrate the founder's birthday in February. It was on Valentine's Day. And it used to meet in that same place, and then they started branching out and holding it in a different location each year. And then we started getting people from Canada come in, so then we were international. And now we get people from all over the world come in. And we get, I think there were around 400 women, 400 or 500 women, yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, and it's wonderful. They follow the guidelines of the General Service Conference and electing the officers and the representatives. So it is a conference. It's not a convention because they actually do work there.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like the component that probably many more groups around the country and around the world could benefit from.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's to celebrate women.
Yeah, and that's important. Now, you've been sober. Tell me your sobriety date.
May 24th, 1972.
Okay, so if my math is right, you've been sober 53 years.
53 years, yes.
That's an amazing amount of time. And Pam shared with me your age, which probably she shouldn't have done, but
It's all right. I'm 84.
you're relatively young. I just, the last person I interviewed with 53 or more years was in his mid-80s somewhere, or high 80s. And in fact, the oldest person I ever interviewed was 94 years old.
Wow.
And he lived out in Pasadena. Is that anywhere near you?
No, I'm in Northern California, near Sacramento.
Okay, I get it.
Pasadena's near Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. Okay. Getting back to the women's conference, because I want to talk about your experience and what it was like, what happened, and what it's been like in the last 53 years. The women's conference, what kind of issues, besides just greater inclusion and understanding of women in AA, what other sorts of things do y'all do?
Oh, we have workshops on all different topics. There's the gay and lesbian groups. There's the grief groups. There's mother and daughter. There's oh goodness, just a whole myriad of topics that we could go into, covering women health group, and just or we go into traditions and steps, not concepts so much, but issues that usually come up in meetings. So it's not just women's issues, but it's AA and issues in general.
So when you all meet and get together, is it more like a AA meeting, or is it more like a business meeting?
Oh, it's like AA meeting. Well, we do have a business meeting where we elect our officers for the next year.
So there are meetings out there that are specifically oriented towards the women's conference and the women's issues?
Right. Well, at the conference there are. And then also the one to choose the next city where it's going to be.
Do you always go to the international as well? You bring the conference there as well?
I try to go to the international every year if I can.
Okay. When you say international...
No, International Women's Conference.
And that's every year?
Every year.
Wow. That must be quite an undertaking to put that on every year.
It is. They start working on it 3 years ahead of time.
What are some of the biggest challenges that the International Women's Conference face on an ongoing basis?
One of it is find a city that will accommodate us and getting a committee together that can pull it off, so that they put bids in just like they would for the international convention.
So it helps to have people on the committees who have done this sort of thing before?
Absolutely. It needs experience.
The experience could probably, I guess, include people who have connections at various hospitality and hotels and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And with food service and coordinating the events, it's a lot of work.
So given the number of people, that's important. So getting everything together, once you've got the logistics of it all worked out, then y'all can get together and talk about the AA side of things a little bit more than the business side of things, huh?
Right. And then it's a matter of getting the speakers. And I've been privileged to be asked to speak a few times at it. So that's been an honor.
That's wonderful, and quite an honor, especially when the kind of experience you must have.
Yes.
Which kind of leads me to ask the questions. When you, a day, a month, a week, a year before you first came into AA in 1972, What was going on in your life during that time that made AA your next stop?
It was bad. I was in a violent marriage, an alcoholic marriage for 16 years. And I had 3 children, and the only friend I had left was a gal in a gallows. And I was homicidal and suicidal, and my life was a mess. I just couldn't see any way out, and I just wanted to die.
So that was in the early 70s that you were feeling that way?
Right. It started January 8th of 1972. I was out looking for a place to kill myself, and it almost happened. And I heard a voice tell me, "You don't have to go this way anymore. There is another way." And I like to think of that as my higher power. And I went home from there in tears, and I turned on the TV, and there was a public service announcement saying, "If you've got a problem of alcohol in your home, call this number." So I called it, and they asked me if I had a drinking problem. I told them no, because I compared my drinking with my husband's, and there's no way I could keep up with him. So they sent me to Al-Anon for 5 months, and of course I was drinking the whole time. And meanwhile, things got worse, and till finally filed for a divorce. That was the day I used for my sobriety date, May 24th, 1972, because I knew I didn't have to drink after that day. I couldn't remember the date of my last drink. I remembered the last drink, I just couldn't remember the date. So I chose that date, and I haven't had to change it.
Yeah, having one sobriety date there are a lot of advantages to that and a lot of blessings behind it. When you had that voice say something to you about what you were just about to do, had you actually been asking the universe or God or whomever to help you, help change your life, or was that just something that showed up?
No. When Bill W. talks in his story about if there was a devil, he certainly had me, that's the way I felt. And I thought, if there was a God, God would be good. Why would anybody good want to have anything to do with me? So no, I didn't ask for help.
How long were you married?
16 years.
Which, have you been married multiple times or more than once?
Yes, that was my first marriage. I got married at 17. I had been with him since I was 14.
What kind of experience does that impart to one who gets married that young? I mean, where do you get good guidance about a marriage like that?
Oh, good question. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm assuming that whenever it was you told the family, your mother or your father, that that's what you were going to do, there must have been some reaction. I guess I'm curious what their reaction was and how you dealt with it.
Well, we went together for 4 years before we got married. And my mother was sure that I had my mind made up, and then if she told me not to marry him, I would go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah. So she knew she didn't have any control, and you married at 17. Prior to that boyfriend, and let's say earlier in your life, what was your family of origin like? What was growing up in your household like when you were a kid?
My father was alcoholic. My mother was not. And he had a third-grade education. And so he couldn't hold a job. And we moved a lot. Sometimes we stayed in a place just a few days, maybe a couple of months, never a year, and just moved from place to place to place. I went to over 21 different grammar schools. So I never had a chance to make friends with anyone.
Yeah.
And I was always the new one in the class.
Why did your father and mother move you so many times?
Well, sometimes it was because of the law.
Okay.
He was an
Yeah.
alcoholic.
My goodness.
Often we'd move in the middle of the night.
Wow. What did that feel like to you when you were a kid?
Oh, it was exciting.
Really?
Yeah, I love the moving around. I still love to travel. And it was always exciting going to someplace new.
I don't think I've ever heard someone say that before, where they said, I love to travel because of the fact that my parents would uproot us every 3 weeks to move as children.
Oh, always going to someplace new. What are we going to find here?
I guess by the same token, for you to have survived that situation, you must have learned certain skills about making and then losing friends over and over again that served you.
Well, I never got close to anybody. Was never there long enough to get close. And then my parents divorced when I was 12, and I was ashamed because most of the parents were, it wasn't popular to be divorced then. So I was kind of ashamed of the fact that they were divorced, and I was with my mother.
So you stayed with your mother. What kind of alcoholic was your dad?
He was a mean drunk.
Did that mean physical or verbal abuse?
Yes, physical, verbal. Yeah.
And how about siblings?
I had 3 sisters, older sisters. We're all a year apart.
So with that kind of closeness in age between 4 sisters, you all must have talked amongst yourselves from time to time about what was happening. Were you able to get any kind of understanding out of that, why things were not going well in your home?
I don't remember ever talking about it.
Huh. So when one of you would get into trouble, the others just stayed out of the way?
Oh, yeah.
In my house where I was growing up, there was always, especially between my younger sister and me, 2 years younger, there was always like, what's wrong with Dad? Why is he doing this to us? What can we do? And so we'd find ways to cope together, but then that didn't last very long either.
Well, my next to the older sister used to get in trouble a lot. And she was one of us. She died of this disease when she was 76. My older sister was molested by my father. And he pretty much left the next one next to me and me alone. We didn't get as much attention as the 2 older ones.
That's similar to my family of origin, where my older brother, who's 8 years older, he was the one who got the worst of the worst. And I think by the time it got to me, things had softened up somewhat, but it seems like the older kids always get the worst of it.
Yeah.
When did alcohol enter the picture for you? How old were you, and what were the circumstances under which you tried it and maybe kept at it?
I used to go to the bar with my dad. This is before you had to be 21 to go to a bar. And I would sit up on the bar stool next to him and drink out of his muscatel. And I didn't have my first drunk until I was 12.
But you were drinking up to that point.
Yeah, and then my sisters, we traveled, when we were traveling, we were in a big stake bed truck. We had all our worldly goods piled in the back. My older sister would ride up front with my mom, dad, and the three of us other gals would ride in the back. And my next to the oldest sister, Florence Ann, used to get hold of a bottle of something or another, and we would drink that and smoke cigarettes on a bobby pin.
The fun times, huh?
Yeah, we thought it was fun.
Sure, it probably was, given the alternative of having to stay home and face an angry father all the time.
Right.
You said that you were 12 before you really started with the alcohol. What did that period of your life look like, and why would you have started at that point?
Well, it was at my sister's wedding, and booze was flowing. I was having whiskey, and I had a blackout that night, woke up with a wet bed. Yeah, but then I started sneaking it. If I found it, I'd steal it out of the house or fill the bottles up with water, whatever I could. And then when I met my first husband when I was 14, then, of course, he furnished it. Didn't have to worry about it.
So the two of you could drink any time, any amount.
Oh, yeah. He would pick me up at school in 39 Plymouth, and we'd go out in the Toolies and with a 6-pack of Country Club malt liquor, and do what kids do in the back seat. He was 5 years older than me. He was 19.
So whenever it was that was going on, were you getting any sort of feedback from the people around you or family members or school that, maybe you were engaged in some behavior that's not very good for you, or did people ignore that?
The only time anything was said was when I came home once and my dress was inside out. And I lied to my mom, and I said that I was over at my girlfriend's and we were exchanging clothes, trying on different clothes. Instant lie.
You must have gotten pretty good at that, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I lied about everything. Liar, cheat, and a thief right off the gate. I shoplifted, took whatever I want, didn't care whose it was. If I wanted it, I just took it.
Into what frame of mind did all that drinking bring you? I mean, what was there about the drinking that drew you back to it time and time again?
It was always, get me out of here, get me to another place, turn it off. I didn't like where I was, just turn it off, and I could be somebody else.
Was there self-loathing involved?
Oh, I hated myself for who I was. And I would look at the other girls at school, and I knew I didn't measure up with them. I wasn't one of the popular ones, and always just off by myself.
Yeah, that's a common refrain for a lot of people, especially young girls. That's sad that it had to be that way.
I had one friend, and until she got pregnant at 15, and then I didn't want people to know that I was associated with somebody who got pregnant. I was awful. I was just awful, and I just abandoned her.
Is that something you went back all these years later and did a ninth step about?
I did.
How did that look?
I wish I had run it by my sponsor first.
Really?
Because it brought up a lot of painful memories for her.
Because you went about it the wrong way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had that experience too. I didn't have a sponsor. It was within my first 6 or 9 months, and I thought I knew enough from just reading the book to go out and do it, and it was disastrous. I almost drank over it. It was that bad. But you at least made amends at some point to her.
I did. Yeah.
The program in action, right?
Yes.
So being married at 14...
It was 17.
Oh, 17, that's right. That's a different trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty young to be married still. How did that affect your life overall? Were things good or bad in the early years, and how did you live through it all?
Well, it was all about drinking.
Uh-huh.
That was the only thing we had in common. We were married 3 years before I had children, and I put off having children because I felt like one myself, and I didn't know what I was going to do with them, and I didn't want the responsibility of it. But my sisters were popping out babies like bunny rabbits, and they said, "What's the matter with you? Don't you want to have children? What's wrong with you?" So I thought I had to please them. So when I had my children, I still didn't know what to do with them. I wasn't there for them emotionally. Physically, I wasn't there for them because I was working. I would leave them with someone else, a babysitter. And over their lives growing up, they didn't have much of a mother. And then all the feelings, the resentment I had against my husband, who was physical with me, I took out on my children. So I was abusive to them. It was a very painful time.
I'm sure it was. Sounds like the household I grew up in. My dad was the abusive, angry, really, he was sick. Lots of mental health issues there. But about the time that he was being his most physical, violent, and verbal was the time that my mother checked out emotionally. And I wonder, is that kind of what happened for you too?
Oh, God, I was not there. I turned everything off. Give me a drink, turn it off.
So you had the 3 kids in tow during this period of time?
My last one was 11 months old when I got sober.
So what's the spacing between the 3 of them?
See, 2 years and 8 months between the first 2, and then 5 years between the second and the third one.
So that meant a raising the children type obligation of at least, 20-something years by the time the last one is out of the house.
Right.
When you were around the kids and you were drunk or you were in the midst of getting drunk or however it affected you, how did the children react to you during those times? Did they have an inkling on why you were acting the way you were acting?
No, they were afraid of me. They didn't know when they came to me, if I was going to hit them or hug them. They never knew what to expect. And I didn't drink every day. I drank about 3 days a week. But the other days, I was just checked out emotionally.
That's tough. And then, did you move with your husband and the kids like you did when you were a kid?
No, we stayed. We moved from Grass Valley to Glendale. And we were in Glendale until my son was born. We moved down there in 1964. We bought a home in Canoga Park in San Fernando Valley. And so we were there until we divorced in 1972.
Okay, so you were there for the years of your drinking up until the point at which you got sober.
Right.
When did you realize you had a problem with alcohol? When did that first show up, or when did that little voice in the back of your mind say, something's wrong here?
It was when I was in Al-Anon, and they told me to buy the big book because it would help me to understand my husband. So I bought the big book, and I brought it home, and I bought it on the installment plan, 25 cents a week. And I bought it home and brought it home, put it in the headboard. And he was illiterate, but for some reason he opened up the headboard, found the book, tore it up in 3 pieces. And I thought, oh, that SOB, I just bought this book. He tore it up. So he'd get in his truck and go to work, and I'd get out my Scotch tape, start taping it together, page by page, piece by piece, those 3 pieces of pages. And when I got to chapter 3, more about alcoholism, oh my God, this sounds like me. Could I possibly have a problem? I had never connected. I used to just laugh and say, if I ever become an alcoholic, I'll get there cheaply because it doesn't take much for me to get drunk. Now that just tells me that I have the allergy to alcohol.
Were you a blackout drinker when you drank?
No.
So you?
No, I wished I could have been.
Yeah.
So that I wouldn't remember.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I blacked out just very, very seldom. But there were times I wished I could have, because having to hear people talk about the thing that you do remember doing.
Yes, and having to relive that again
and having to relive it the next morning. So
yeah.
when you had the children and they were young, your husband worked at that time?
Yes.
And how about you? Did you stay home with the kids, or did you go out and work?
No, I was working as a hairdresser, and I was down to working 3 days a week, and then I shortened my days to where I was only working a half a day, so I could get home and have that drink when I got home.
So you had the physical cravings that were driving you around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How about the people you worked with? Did they ever notice or say anything about your drinking?
Nobody ever said anything about my drinking.
Do you think it would have made a difference if they did, looking back?
Might have. I probably would have denied it.
So between the time you got married in 1972, these were just years. How would you describe those years, and what were some of the milestones within those years that you hit and will never forget?
Well, the birth of my children. And there were times we went camping and start drinking, and it always ended up in a fight, coming back home and doing the same thing over and over again.
So there were some good times along the way that were eventually spoiled by the alcohol. Yeah.
Every time, this time's going to be different, that is. We're going to go have a good time. Yeah.
When you went into AA, questions must have gotten asked by different people in your family. What sort of things were you having to tell people about getting sober?
Well, when I told my family that I was getting sober, they said, well, if you would just give your life to Jesus, you wouldn't have this problem. You wouldn't have to go to those meetings. Why are you going to those meetings? Why do you have to go there? So there wasn't much support.
Well, you had mentioned earlier about being emotionally unavailable for these people. To me, somebody who has a lot of work to do once they do get sober, did you find that some of that behavior was stuck around during your sobriety?
It took me years to it was a slow growth. I wasn't one who just boom, boom, boom got in, changed, became a beautiful butterfly. No, still working on it.
That's a good answer to that question, because aren't we always still working on it? Yeah, I guess when you were talking about that, I thought when we first get sober, we have some pretty high expectations. What kind of expectations did you have once you realized that people around you were getting sober and staying sober and were starting to enjoy the gifts of sobriety? And how did you deal with that? What were your expectations?
Well, I wanted what they had.
Right away?
Yeah, it looked a lot better than anything I had. Yeah, they were happy. They were laughing, and I didn't know what that was about. Somebody asked me, "What makes you happy?" I didn't know. I couldn't remember ever being happy, but I wanted what they had, and I was willing to do the work.
At what point after you came into AA did that kind of transition from wishing you could have what they have without doing the work to knowing that you can have what they have if you do the work? How long did that take to surface?
Well, I was told to get a sponsor and to get the big book, get the 12 and 12. And I was so afraid of not doing what I was told that I would go back to that life that I had, that living hell, that I was willing to do anything to keep from going back there. So, yeah, I did what people told me.
We'll be right back. My friends, if you're enjoying my AA Recovery Interviews podcast, check out my latest audiobook, Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how more than 100 men have recovered from alcoholism. This is the word-for-word, cover-to-cover reading of the first printing of the first edition of the Big Book, published in 1939. It's a relaxing and meaningful way to listen to the Big Book anytime, any place. Have a free listen at Audible, Amazon, or iTunes. While you're there, enhance your program with another audiobook I produced, Lost Stories of the Big Book, 30 original stories missing from the third and fourth editions of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an engaging audiobook that brings these stories to life for AA members who've never seen them. These timeless testimonials were originally cut to make room for newer stories in the third and fourth editions. But their vitally important messages of hope are as meaningful today as when they were first published. Many listeners will hear these stories for the very first time. Listen to a free sample of Lost Stories of the Big Book on Audible, Amazon, or iTunes. It's also available as a Kindle book or in paperback from Amazon if you'd like to read along. You're gonna love it. And we're back. Were you living your life along the edge for a period of time, or were you staying kind of towards the middle of the bed, as they say?
I was trying to do what was suggested of me. It was difficult because we divorced and I had the kids. And I was working just 3 days a week without much money, getting no help from the father. And I wanted to go to meetings and I needed to have a babysitter. And so I didn't know how I was going to do this, and I still to this day don't know how I did it, but I managed to get a babysitter every night. And then my children would say, "You're never home," and they were right. I was gone. I was working during the day because now I was divorced. I had to get another job to support my family. So I got a full-time job. Now I'm gone all day, and then I'm going to meetings at night. So I'm not there, and so it was hard on the kids. They couldn't understand what was going on. How come I'm not home? Even though I told them if I don't go here to these meetings, I'm not going to stay sober. and I'm going to go back to where you were. And they would rather have had me back to where I was with their dad than me be gone all the time. It was really confusing for them.
Did you ever have a period like I did when I was in that same kind of situation? I've been sober 37 years now, but
Congratulations.
thank you. I remember in the beginning telling my wife that she was saying, "You're never home. You know, the kids are." You know, this is after we had kids because I got sober before we did, but even after I was going to a lot of meetings and everything else. And she never really confronted me too seriously about it, but every now and then she'd say, you know, you're just not here. And I'd say, well, you know, you want me to stay sober, don't you? And, you know, part of it was, yeah, I knew I needed to get to a meeting. I knew I had to do certain work with regard to AA to stay sober and build an enriched life for my wife and I. But there was a little piece in there, too, that said, you know, I just don't want to be around crying, screaming kids tonight. Bingo, I got a great place to go. And who's going to blame me for going to an AA meeting? Did you ever face those kind of feelings along the way? Just curious. I don't think I've ever asked that question.
Oh, I love the pats on the back that I got. Yeah, that was good. And at first, I only went to 3 meetings a week because they told me if you drank every day, go to a meeting every day. Well, of course, I drank 3 days a week, so I thought I could do that. But I found out that I was stark raving crazy in between. So I had to go. For me, I went to a meeting every night. Except I missed 2 nights the first year because I had the flu and couldn't get out of bed. But other than that, those first 2 years, it was a meeting every night. That's a long time to be away from your kids.
Well, it is. It in one way, it kind of builds a solid foundation for you in the program, right? Mm-hmm. But on the other side of things, there's only so many hours in the day. And balance, I think, especially for those women alcoholics who I know, that type of balance, especially when they're married to an alcoholic, or if not an alcoholic, somebody who doesn't understand, then the kids walk around saying, you know, AA is stealing my mother.
Mm-hmm. My younger daughter still says that. Yeah, she's 54, and she says AA took her mother away from her.
I bet you'd love to be able to find something that you could say that would change her mind about that.
She's convinced. So all I can do is just keep living the program.
That's all we can do, and especially when people like my older sister got into AA and for a while, and she was in it. And I always knew when she had slipped because I'd say something to her about, well, you know, let's just go ahead and turn that thing over to God and everything. She'd say, don't give me that AA crap. Okay, so I knew she had slipped. You sounds, too, like your sponsor played a big role in your early success in the program. What kind of sponsor was she, and how did she work with you?
Well, she was from the Pacific Group. Clancy was her sponsor. And so she was very militant. She told me to call her every day, so I did. She told me what to do. Her name was Rosemary. In Southern California, we're called babies when we get sober, so I was Rosemary's baby, and I acted like it. And so I depended upon her for everything, and she was my higher power. And then when she got married, and I called her, and she says, for Pete's sake, well, those were not the words she used. Nancy, do you have to call me on my honeymoon? Just call me if you have a problem that affects your sobriety. Well, to me, everything affected my sobriety. So I didn't know what to call her about, so I stopped calling her. And then I went 4 years before I got another sponsor because people told me I was too sick for them, and they wouldn't sponsor me.
You were too sick.
Yeah, too much baggage.
Oh, that's tough. I'll tell you what, on the receiving end of that, that's a horrible feeling. That happened to me within my first year of sobriety where everything was going nowhere and my program was going down the drain very quickly because I wasn't doing the work. Someone said, well, get a sponsor. So I asked the first guy to be my sponsor, and he said no. And then I thought, wow, what a fluke that must be. So I asked the second guy to be my sponsor, and he said no. And I felt so horrible about myself. I said, what's wrong with me that here I am in AA of all places. I'm feeling horrible, and nobody wants to be my sponsor. It was a great thing to feel sorry about.
Right. I wasn't good enough for Alcoholics Anonymous.
So during the 4 years that you did not have a sponsor, how did you get along?
I one day at a time, one day at a time, and just by the grace of God. And my next sponsor that I got, I had for 7 years before I told her she was my sponsor, because I was afraid if I told her she was going to let me go too.
So it was one of these things, I'll be your friend, but I won't be your sponsor?
We didn't talk about it. I never asked her to be my sponsor.
But if somebody had said to you during that time, have you talked to your sponsor about this, and you had talked to her, would you say, yes, I have?
Oh, yeah, I would tell people I had a sponsor, but I wouldn't tell her she was my sponsor. Had this little game going in my head.
Did she know you were doing that?
Probably.
Probably. Well, it takes what it takes, doesn't it? I mean, sometimes we have to do some sly and sneaky things to help people stay sober. I guess telling them that you're their sponsor or that they're your sponsor must have that kind of feel to it.
Right.
Wow. So this is going on for how many years? Because you've got such a long term of sobriety that there must have been other things in those early years that kind of set the stage for the balance of your sobriety.
Well, I remarried when I was 2 years sober to a normie.
A normie.
And I had given up custody of my children because I didn't feel like I had what it took to be a mother. And that even though their dad drank and was abusive to me, it wasn't abusive to the kids. I felt like they were better off with him. And then when I remarried, he called me up and said he wanted me to take the kids back. And I was so filled with guilt. I didn't ask any questions. I took them back. And I had to rely on the women of Alcoholics Anonymous to teach me how to be a mother.
Yeah.
And I was married to him for 10 years when I found out he was molesting my younger daughter. My two younger ones came to live with me. The older one stayed with her father.
And that was the point at which she was being molested, was after she went to be with him alone?
With the stepfather.
The stepfather, right.
The stepfather. The younger one was molested. Yes. And so I had to go through the authorities and have him arrested and charged. And it was a difficult time. And my daughter, it was a mess for her.
I'll bet.
I don't know if she fully got over it. I tried getting her help, but she wasn't very cooperative. And so it's been a real struggle for her for the rest of her life.
I'll bet it has, yeah.
Yeah.
Things happen in such a short, concentrated period of time when we're young, and then we spend the rest of our lives trying to work them out,
Right.
Answer the question, why did this happen? And usually the answer to that question is, it's not logical, it's not reasonable, it's not rational, it just was, but that doesn't get to be a real good answer after a while. You're waiting for some solution.
And again, I was working full time. I was going to school at night, and I was active in AA, going to about 5 meetings a week. And so I left the responsibility with the stepfather, and I wasn't there for her. So again, I wasn't available.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 10 years of sobriety. And when that marriage fell apart, I moved back up to Grass Valley, where this all started. And I just turned myself into AA and said, hey, I need help. I don't care how long you've been sober. I'm going to listen to you if you got something I need. And I had to just change my whole program around.
I've often wondered, Nancy, when people have a lot of sobriety, I mean like serious 40s and 50 years of sobriety, I think there's just a general feeling overall that these people must really have it together if they've stayed sober that long. Or they couldn't, if they've stayed sober that long, that meant that they got through everything they got through with a smile on their face and a song in their heart. And the reality is, I think a lot of people, once they're sober, they just go through hell sober, or they just have to deal with the same problems everybody else does, but they don't have that convenient solution. Did you seek out that convenient solution along the way? I mean, were there times when you said, the hell with this, I'm just going to drink?
Only once. I thought about it after that marriage broke up, and I talked to somebody about it. And it was just one of those fleeting things that a drink would sure be good right now. But I didn't act on it.
To what do you attribute that kind of solid point of view of you didn't want to drink, where in all those years it only occurred to you one time to do that?
Oh, there was one other time when that second husband and I at first, in the first few years, our marriage was pretty good. We were coming back from Hawaii, and I'd been going to meetings every day in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And we got back, he had gone to the restroom, and the flight attendant brought up a bottle of free champagne. It's free, right? And put it right in front of me. And I had a strong urge to pick that up and drink. And I thought, nobody around here knows me. And I was just about to pick it up when he came back from the restroom. And I thought, what's the matter with me? 7 years sober at that time. Everything's good. Why am I doing this? Reminds me I'm still an alcoholic.
That never goes away.
Mm-mm.
That's etched in our personal histories. Now, you mentioned a period of time, the 7 years and then the 10 years, where you didn't go to very many meetings during the 10 years, or you were going to meetings?
I went to meetings until I found out that things were not going well at home with my daughter, and my sponsor suggested that I just go to 2 meetings a week and that I needed to spend more time at home because there was another incident that I didn't mention. 2 years before that, my son had molested his sister, and I had to have him arrested and take him to a psychiatric hospital and have him committed. And it was devastating.
I'll bet.
And I tried to get help from my daughter, and the help went from my son, but not from my daughter. And at that time, that's when my sponsor told me that I needed to just cut my meetings down to 2 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and my program suffered big time. Liar, cheat, and thief all came back to me. I started stealing from work. I had all kinds of ideas go through my head. Toward the end of my marriage, I had these fantasies about having a romance on the side, something I had never done, and even when I was drinking. And I didn't like what I was becoming. And I was doing this sober, or at least dry.
So this is how many years into your sobriety?
That was around 9 years of sobriety.
Because there are people walking around with 8 years of sobriety wondering what it's going to be like in their 9th year. I can imagine what that must be like. During this time, were you sponsoring anybody? Were you involved in any kind of service work?
I was director of that little institution committee. I was sponsoring several women.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When all else fails, work with another alcoholic. How did you feel about what was going on? I mean, was that a failure in your mind?
Yeah, I felt, what in the world is the matter with me? We're supposed to be me and AA, him and Al-Anon, the kids and Alatot, Alapup, Alacat. Everything's supposed to be just hunky-dory, and it's all falling apart at 10 years of sobriety. And I had to be honest with the gals I sponsored, and they were supportive. And even people in AA, I told my sponsor, I mentioned to her what was going on, and she suggested not mentioning it in meetings. And I felt like I had to. I had to be open. I had to let people know what was going on with me. No more secrets, no more hiding, because that was killing me. No more pretending.
You had a period of time in there, a turning point, it sounds to me, like a jumping off point. So what kind of alternatives had you come up for yourself at that point?
Well, I was working for the federal government. I was the first safety inspector for the VA system, female safety inspector. I was the first female electrical helper in the VA system. So I was doing some groundbreaking work and feeling good about that when it was time, when it wasn't popular for women to be in non-traditional fields. And so for there, when I went through my second divorce, and moved my daughter back up to Grass Valley, and I got a job on the flight line for the Beale Air Force Base as a firefighter. And I thought I could handle that because I've been working with men for the last couple of years. I could do this, but found out, oh my goodness, that was a whole other story. So I was there for 2 years until I had to give that job up, and I went to work for the post office because people like getting their mail. This is going to be good. But, I was with the post office for the next few years.
And was it good?
It was at first, and then I got bit by dogs when I was carrying mail in Stockton, California. And you're okay with the post office as long as you don't get hurt. So I was just treated like dirt, and it was rough. It was just a living hell. And I ended up going out on a medical retirement for stress from the post office in 1994. I was 54. I was 54 years old.
Of all the things that could happen to a mail carrier, I would think getting bit by a dog is one of the most ubiquitous things that happens. I mean, don't mailmen get bit all the time?
They do.
What do they do about it? Do they just go get the shots and then just carry on as if it didn't happen? Sounds like they weren't very supportive of you.
Yeah, just carry on. Yeah. No, they weren't. For me, it made me terrified of dogs.
Oh.
I'd always loved dogs.
Yeah.
Always had one. But now I was just terrified. And I had some physical problems because of it, that I wasn't able to perform my duties because of the dog bites.
It's a physically stressful job, too. I mean, there's a lot of walking.
Well, that part I loved, but it was the injuries that I had from the dog bite that were hard, mentally and physically.
So, again, something else happening within sobriety, and you got through it.
Mm-hmm.
What were you talking about in meetings during that time? Did what you were saying match the way you were feeling and when you would share in meetings?
I tried to be as honest as I could. Stay in the solution. What can I do about it? I remarried when I was 15 years sober to another alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. It was really good. He had 2.5 years more than me.
Oh, wow.
And my life just changed around dramatically.
Did you meet in the program?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we met in a meeting in Grass Valley. Yeah. Now, I was real active in the program and in service, and he was staying sober and going to meetings. So it was kind of a blending of the two. And he liked to have fun. He knew how to play. I knew nothing about knowing how to play.
You're talking about sober play.
Yes. Just going out and having fun, fishing, going to concerts, dancing, doing stuff I didn't know anything about. And so he taught me how to play, and I taught him more about being in service in AA.
What a great combination.
Yeah, it was good. We were married for 29 years when he died of cancer.
What were those final years like for you?
They were hard, but when he found out, he knew he had cancer 12 years before he died, and just decided that he had cancer didn't have him, and we were going to make the most of our lives, and we did. We did right up to the end. He had treatment, but we traveled. He got treatment where we traveled.
Mm-hmm.
He proposed to me for another 25 at the Rock of Gibraltar. We made it for 4. We went to a meeting in every state, most of them in our RV. Went to conventions, wow. Internationals, and it was wonderful.
That sounds wonderful.
He had 4 children. I had 3, so we had 7 children between us.
How many grandkids?
10 grandchildren, 16 great-grandchildren.
So that would have been enough people to be continuously traveling to visit.
Oh, yes. My older daughter lived in Iowa, my son lived in Pennsylvania, and the other ones were here, all pretty close in California, in Sacramento area. And he taught me how to love. He taught me that I was capable of having those feelings when I didn't think I was. And that proved to be true. It was so buried with so much fear uh, all those years, and it just took time to just let it out.
Yeah, it does take time. And, like they say, time takes time. And, getting to those feelings is one thing. Doing something with them once you get there is something else. And, I've experienced many of the same sort of things that you're talking about with regard to the kind of relationships that are possible when you're still drinking and those that are impossible at the same time. But sounds to me like you've said some pretty inspiring things here today, from the standpoint of somebody listening, wondering whether they could get through what you got through. And I mean, that's why I think it's so important for people to go to meetings when things are going bad, as well as when they're going good, because to me, when things are going good, it's really easy to think that there's something else making that happen. And I was curious, what kind of things have happened within your sobriety that you would say were just extraordinarily good things, that it's a good thing you were able to tell people about them?
Well, when my husband died, a big part of me just wanted to go with him because I loved him so much.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I started thinking, we had a reservation to go to spring training with our RV. And that's too much for me. But we also had reservations to go to Founders Day for the first time. That was in 2018. And I thought, we were going to be going anyway. I'm going to go. So I made reservations just by myself, and reserved a room at the university. And I went and shared a room with a gal that I later ended up sponsoring, and I've been going ever since.
So you've been
Every
making
year
that trip down
since.
to Akron every
And
year, huh?
then I started taking, the next time I came back with gals I sponsor, and each year it keeps growing. And it's been
That's wonderful.
fantastic. And that same year that he died, my sponsor said that she was going to be speaking in Poland for their anniversary, their Polish anniversary, and I told her, I'm doing the, I got this little talk I do on the women of the big book that I developed. Would they be interested in hearing that? And they were. So I went to Poland with her.
Huh.
And it was fantastic. And while we were there, we were asked if we would go to this little country that neither of us have ever heard about, called Moldova, and told it they don't have much money. Can you afford to come on your own? We both said yes, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to say yes anyway. And after I went to Poland, my sponsor went back home, but my ancestors came from Bohemia, which is part of Czech Republic, and I wanted to go see where they came from. So I went to Prague. I went to meetings there, and then I connected with somebody in Leith stores where my ancestors came from, and they met me at the train station. I didn't know if I met them. They took me and showed me where my ancestors lived back to the 15th century. It was fantastic. And I got to do that sober. I don't know what I'm doing, God, but we're going to do it. I mean, it was amazing. So the next year we went to Moldova for their anniversary. There were two other women. There was my sponsor and me and two other women who met us. And we got to go into a prison for the first time ever, to take a meeting into a prison in Moldova. And it was a women's prison. And this past year, we were invited back to Poland and again to Moldova. And when people found out that we were coming, we ended up carrying the message to 8 different countries in Europe. Yeah. Yeah, it was just absolutely amazing. I sponsor a lady that I met at one of the mini conference that we went to, in Krakow, and I sponsor her. In fact, I spoke with her at noon today. These things just, I supply the willingness, God supplies the power. The doors just open. And everywhere we went, people were so gracious. And in Moldova, it was wonderful. There were about 3 of the members who came over and said, "We would like you to come back to Moldova and spend the rest of your years with us." And oh, God, that just touched my heart. But I thought, I still got
my
family
gosh,
here.
that's wonderful.
Today, my children are in my life, and we are close, and I speak to them regularly.
So whatever deficits occurred in your family of origin that were exacerbated by your drinking along the way, given enough years of sobriety and working a good program, you've been able to reestablish warm, loving relationships with people that, who knows, if you'd still been around,
Right.
if you had kept on drinking. That's such a wonderful story. So we've been talking now for the better part of an hour. It's gone by really, really quick, Nancy, because your story is gripping, it's fascinating. I like to ask this question every now and then, and that is this. If the Nancy of today, with 53 years of sobriety and experience, could go back and talk to the Nancy of another age, earlier in your life, how old would that Nancy be, and what would you say to her about her future?
If you had told me I was 31 years old when I got sober, if you had told me that I would have the life that I have now, I'd say, you're crazy. I just could never have imagined it. I wouldn't have believed it.
You've talked about a lot of really interesting and important things tonight, and I really honor your sobriety, and not just because you put together so many years, but that in discussing it, you've really kind of pulled together a lot of the threads that, even in a speaker meeting, are sometimes tough to pull all together. But you've pulled it all together. So we know you, I know you now as a remarkable woman who's doing some really great work, but who came out of some real challenges and some difficulties. And that, to me, is the hope of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think you've nailed it tonight when it comes to inspirational and encouraging stories. Yours is definitely one of them.
And it still goes on. I'm still in service. I'm archives chair for our district. I was archives chair for our area. And so when that was over, I made a position for myself. We had never had one. So I get to do this. And my current sponsor, I've had her for the last 15 years. When I was 39 years sober, she introduced me to general service. It just opened up doors for me. Now I get to do talks on traditions and on the concepts, as well as the steps, and then delve into the history of women in the program and of the big book. And there's just always so much more to do, and I just love sharing it. It's just great and passing it on. The work I've done, I'm passing it on to others because I know nobody gets out of here alive, so that they can keep doing it and passing it on and growing. And a part of it is going into the history of women in AAA and looking for the first woman of different cultures, the first woman in each culture. And who was that? How did that go about? And so now I've asked other people when I speak in other countries to tell me about the first woman in your country. And so I've got these people out there doing this research for me and coming together. I've got a little gal who's doing the first Asian woman. I got one in Russia. And it's just really neat watching this grow and expanding. And then I know when I'm gone, it's going to carry on for generations to come because there's so much more.
What wonderful service, too. I mean, helping people get the program to the same extent and depth that you've gotten it. To me, that's what AA is all about. Yeah, it's about getting sober. It's about learning how to stay sober. It's about some of the other things. But, the promise is coming true. But I think when you start going deeper like you've done, you find some really rich and extraordinary opportunities and things that have been done. Starting a new meeting, getting involved in any kind of service work in the community. these are all things that enrich my life, and it sounds to me like you've been greatly enriched by it all, and you're nowhere near stopping doing it. So, I mean, I think AA owes a big debt of gratitude to you for your involvement. I honor you and your sobriety, and I really want to thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you. Well, I need to turn that around. AA doesn't owe me the gratitude. I owe the gratitude to AA.
Again, thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, thank you, Howard.
Well, my friends, that's a wrap for today's episode of AA Recovery Interviews. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed AA Recovery Interviews, will you please tell others how to listen to it? Think of it as a little AA service that spreads the word about this rich and meaningful listening experience. It's yet another helping hand we can all extend to alcoholics everywhere. Visit my website, aarecoveryinterviews.com, where you can listen to every episode of AA Recovery Interviews. And if you want to contact me directly with any comments or suggestions, simply email howard@aarecoveryinterviews.com. By the way, this podcast strictly adheres to AA's 12 traditions and all General Service Office guidelines for safeguarding anonymity online. I pay all production costs, and no one receives financial gain from the show. AA Recovery Interviews and my guests do not speak for or represent AA at large. This podcast is simply my way of giving back to AA that which has been so freely given to me. The next episode of AA Recovery Interviews is on the way, so keep coming back. It'll be here soon.